Excellent. Thank you, Henry, for joining on the Viva Connection Partner Showcase series. So, well, really very cool to have you on the show.
Hi, Vesa. Thank you so much for having me. How are you doing today?
All good, all good. We're recording this just before Easter, so a long weekend coming up, and
Yes,
can't wait to have some time off. Exactly, that is true. That is true. We all need to rest every now and then, or have an opportunity to do our, let's say, hobby projects. That's one way of putting that as well. Cool. Now, Henry, you are from Adenin, and you have some really cool offerings in the store. Can you do a quick intros before we go to the live demos on what is Adenin and what do you have actually available for customers?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Henry. I'm the product owner of the adenin platform. So I'm basically responsible for all of the applications that we publish to AppSource and sort of keeping our platform ticking over happily. So that's kind of my role in the organization.
So responsible for everything. No, not kidding.
Pretty much like a Guy Friday. Yes.
Yes. Yes. And can you talk about Adenin a bit? So
Sure.
How many solutions you have, and what are the scenarios which Adenin is focusing on?
So Adenin really has been implementing intranets for decades. It's pretty much what I've done since I'm out of college.
Yeah.
And over the past couple of years, we've really seen a transition sort of away from, out of the box intranets that just sit in a box towards companies just gather up all these software as a service applications. And we found that old school intranets, they're really, not that great at integrating and aggregating all of these outside sources into one view.
Yeah.
So, really the mission of an intranet since decades has been that it should be a one true hub where all of your information sort of comes together. And I think in today's day and age, many of those old school intranets sort of fall on their face trying to get that done, basically. Yeah. They just have basically news. There's always like streams of internal news, but there's seldom like a huge range of different applications that you can integrate.
Yeah. And that's obviously, I guess that's where the Microsoft 365 helps to make things then easier, because you can acquire those solutions, which, for example, Adenin is having, and then you can do those integrations to customer systems, right?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Sort of leads me to talk about how we sort of perceive SharePoint. I think it's now at a point where SharePoint, which maybe formerly was used alongside an intranet, to me, now it's almost a generic term that means intranet, like Xerox or Post-it Note or Q-Tip. SharePoint equals intranet,
I think Jeff Deeper loves this statement. I need to quote this one. So.
Microsoft keeps investing into Microsoft 365. It's constantly improving. There's a lot of value being added to the platform. There's a huge ecosystem now where basically SharePoint is just a platform and you can extend it via AppSource to do anything from like turning it into a help desk, enhance your search, process management. So there's really so much versatility. And with Viva Connections, I think they really pushed the envelope in terms of SharePoint being a much better intranet homepage that's always at your fingertips. Yeah. So to me, sort of the clue is in the word connections. It's all about the connections that you have. There's multiple entry points. You have it on your SharePoint homepage. You can also have it in Microsoft Teams as your entry point, which obviously everybody has the Teams app on their mobile device already. So whether you're sort of working on the front line or you have that more traditional white collar role in the organization, I think Viva Connections is going to be liked by anyone in the organization.
Yeah, I do. We do see a lot of interest on the Viva Connection, especially with the multi-device support and adaptation of the UX within across the devices. Now, let's have a look on these things a bit more detailed. So I did move on the desktop view as you went to the Teams, just letting you know on the transitions there. But now we're on the SharePoint, and SharePoint, the landing example here. Can you talk about some of the integrations what Adenin has, or the scenarios and applications what Adenin has provided?
Sure. So the idea with our integrations is that it really complements your Viva Connections dashboard. So it already has a whole host of applications built in where you can have cards for like SharePoint events, people search, and I think one of those central pillars of Viva Connections we try to pick up on, and that is to add you even more connections to your Viva Connections dashboard. So with this in mind, I just have prepared here a short selection of applications that we offer today. So everything you see here works already. And I just was going to walk you through a couple of these.
Yep.
So basically, if you picture that if you're an organization, there will be certain applications everyone in the organization uses, like Workday, for instance. So you have a Workday inbox card here, which shows you how many tasks you have waiting in your Workday inbox. You could also make available to every employee in the organization a very handy card that shows them their time off balance. So that just quickly refreshes the data from Workday and pulls it into your Viva Connections dashboard. Another application that I think is used by almost everybody in the organization in one shape or form would be ServiceNow. For example, if you have like a paper jam in your printer, you might use actually a ServiceNow platform to submit that support request. If you're an agent, you can have a card here that shows you all of your incidents. So if an incident sort of sticks out to you, you just click it, and that brings you straight to your ServiceNow incident.
So deep linking works across the application. That is
absolutely.
Which is cool.
Yeah. All of this is deep linked. It's just basically a teaser, a bit of a snippet of the data, and then you can dive on in straight away.
Yeah. And I think whenever we introduced Viva Connection first time, I was a bit puzzled by quick view. What was the quick view? Why is it called quick view? But it's quick view for the relevant information in that application. So, and simply optimized for any device. And then, for example, the inbox from the Workday, you can then click there and then go to the Workday for actual more operations. But quick view enables you quick overview on what's
almost
happening.
Like quicker view and quick view. Like this is the really quick view, and then that's the slightly less quick view where you have a bit more detail.
True, indeed, and potentially some operations against the system as well. But that's a separate discussion point. So, but yeah, anyway, so that makes perfect sense. What else do we have here? So we have ServiceNow, Workday.
Mm-hmm. So I think these are apps that the organization might use for everybody. Same with maybe like an RSS feed where you could have, I know it's sort of been around for a while, but it still serves its purpose. A lot of news is still being aggregated as RSS. I think there's also a whole host of applications that are specific to what role you have in the organization that would be relevant on Viva Connections. For example, if you work in Jira, you might want to see, what issues you have in your Jira. Again, very similar pattern. You see something that is interesting to you, you click on it. If you work in sales, of course, Salesforce would be something that you might be interested in, so you can see your open leads. Again, you click through and get to your Salesforce lead straight away here.
Yeah.
Then looking further down, for example, we have a Google Calendar view, which might really complement the already existing events card that exists in Viva Connections in case you have any kind of events that are just managed in like a Google Workspace, for example.
Yep.
If you're, working in Confluence, very similar here, you might, for example, just have a quick view of all the pages you have starred. It's just a lot quicker to get back to your most liked Confluence pages this way.
Yeah.
Or if you're maybe a developer or work in project management, there's things like a GitHub card that shows you issues that are assigned to you. There is Asana, for example, where you could get different cards or projects that you're involved in. So when you collaborate with them, why not just put a Slack card on your Viva Connections dashboard, and then you see all of your different Slack channels and can just dive on in straight away into that conversation.
Yeah. It is actually quite common that companies and mid-size, larger, or why not smaller, that they're using a lot of massive spectrum of different applications, right? So this is a great way of surfacing the relevant operations and actions and expectations for the individual in a single view in SharePoint or in Viva Connection across any device, which I love the idea that everything works consistently across all of the devices.
Absolutely. And I think that's really, I think the value of a dashboard is ultimately always going to come down to whether you achieve adoption. Does it offer users a significantly easier way to interact with the data compared to tab hopping or checking their inbox constantly? So to my mind, having all of your applications aggregated into one view is essential if you want to make it a success.
Yeah.
And Viva Connections dashboard is the ideal platform for this because you have those multiple entry points. You can get these cards to show up on your desktop, on the go if you have the Teams app on the mobile, and who doesn't? And what's really cool also is that any of these cards that you make with the adenin platform, you can actually also speak to them in a chatbot. So we have a companion Microsoft Teams app where you can basically ask for certain cards. So you could, for example, we talked about ServiceNow. You could say, show me my time off balances from Workday. And then your chatbot will just quickly ship you that card. And because it's an adaptive card, Viva Connections and Teams both use that standard. It looks beautiful, whether you're on the mobile or on the desktop.
And the deep linking and operations are the same in
all
the
of
Teams.
That is completely the same. So even if you customize this to look slightly differently in Viva Connections, then this will translate one-to-one into that experience you get in Teams. This goes even a tiny step further. So for example, if you're just working in a group chat with people and you just want to help remind everybody of the tasks that you have, you could just say, hey, at adenin, what are our tasks?
I love the natural language resolution integration in this. So you're able to have a discussion in the natural language. That's really, really cool.
Absolutely, yeah. And now it just didn't work. I didn't tag adenin properly.
Yes, exactly. That wasn't the user. That was a Teams challenge.
That was my mistake.
Here we go.
Yes. So here it just invokes you if you're working in Asana, for example, a list of your tasks in Asana.
Yeah. And I said, I really love the natural language way of initiating things. So it's able to understand the human natural language. That's one of the key powers of a AI transition which we're going through. So the computers actually truly understands your intent, and I really like this. So this is really, really cool.
So there is basically a natural language processing engine behind this that you can use even in multiple languages within the same model. And that's something which I'm sure we'll get to in just a few minutes. Is also something we would like to see maybe come to Copilot, where we could maybe offer some of those cards in Copilot. One more thing that might be kind of interesting to folks is any of these cards you make here, they're adaptive cards. But are these compatible with normal SharePoint pages? And the answer is that they are. We basically can embed any of the cards you made also as web parts. So on this page, for example, I've sort of mixed and matched a few regular SharePoint web parts with a few of the cards that you have just seen as Viva Connections apps, but just added here as a web part. So you have basically that sort of, you can cover both sides basically with this.
Yep. That's actually really convenient because, again, you want to get access as easy as possible to the tasks and operations, regardless on which application or software you're actually using. So having the same information exposed from a multiple location, it makes a lot of sense. People have their own preferences on using certain applications. So.
Yeah, it just gives you total liberty, what you want to do with your data. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now something that we wanted to also talk about as well is the adenin company. So and I know that you have the background information on adenin as well. Can you talk a bit about the history and how did we ended up? There's a lot of integrations in here, so and these are actually really cool. So how did we ended up in here?
Yeah, so basically we all started with our app integrations Viva app, which is sort of a one-stop shop where you can have all of the different applications that we offer integrations with.
Yeah.
But that was only the start. So since then, we've really released quite a number of different applications on AppSource. Noteworthy is obviously we have our companion adenin Teams app, but then there's really a long list of AppSource applications that we have submitted. For example, the RSS feed was first. That was really popular. Then we added things like Zendesk, Workday, Jira and Confluence came pretty soon thereafter. I've shown Google Calendar, and the Asana app has been pretty recent and pretty successful because there's just lots of different views you can get out of Asana, and that's really helpful.
Yep, makes perfect sense. Now, I know that the Workday app was just Workday was just approved to be visible in an AppSource. So thank you, congratulations on that one. Really cool to have that's one of those things what customers have been asking, that can get the Workday integration, and it's awesome to have partners who are then providing this based on the customer demand. But what about the roadmap? So what is happening in the future?
Yeah, so the Workday app, I just wanted to give that right back. It's really a pleasure to work with the SharePoint submissions team that really do almost like a complementary user test for us. So we really enjoy working with that submissions team as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
In terms of a roadmap, obviously, companies use usually, around 50 to maybe even sometimes 500 different applications. So there is almost no limit to the applications we want to be able to bring to Viva Connections. So some of the ones that are really top of mind for us at the minute are certain project management and CRM apps. For example, HubSpot, there's a dedicated Salesforce AppSource package that I'm about to submit.
Cool.
We have HR apps such as Gusto, Bamboo HR, SuccessFactors. I think these are going to be extremely relevant for organizations because they're used by everybody in the organization versus maybe some of the other ones are more role specific. We have finance and accounting apps that we would like to bring to Viva Connections. So Concur would be top of mind. There's already a QuickBooks integration, but just having that dedicated Viva app for it is something we want to do. Power BI, that's obviously super important for users of Power BI. If you could have, comes back to this mission of the dashboard being that almost that home screen, that personal home screen for you. So Power BI would seem an obvious addition to that.
Yeah.
And then lastly, we already have a custom GPT with OpenAI listed. We would like to see that coming to Copilot. So that would be a really handy addition that you can just surface your Viva cards, either, in this Teams app that we have, or even better, you could just rely on Copilot to answer those questions and surface relevant cards from your Viva Connections dashboard.
Yep. And from a Microsoft side, I can't promise any timelines or anything, but we are looking into that. So it's one of the things which is in the top of mind because we want to basically existing partners and customers who've invested on the platform, make them their transition or start using Copilot as easy as possible. So having something like Viva Cards and Copilot makes a lot of sense because they are adaptive cards. And then you can do operations directly within a card, and that increases obviously functionalities and opportunities with Copilot for all of our partners as well.
Excellent. I'll wait for my invite.
Yes. Well, no timelines. We're looking into that, but so we'll see how it goes. But we'll definitely get you invited on the dev kitchens and all of that as we get moving on this journey. Now, let's actually move in and back on. I think we're from a screen sharing perspective, we've seen the relevant slides and functionalities. So that was really, really cool. Thank you, Henry, for showing things. You already gave some compliments related on the validation team. How do you, in general, and I know that I'm putting you on a bad spot here as we're talking just two of us, how do you in general think about SharePoint framework and the platform and opportunities for partners? Is that there has been changes comparing to the 10 years ago situation of different, we're a different platform. Now with SharePoint framework, still a relevant thing for partners?
Absolutely. I think more now than ever before. It really is an ecosystem now where you have a number of suppliers putting more applications on AppSource. Therefore, customers are starting to basically field AppSource for different extensions that they want to make to SharePoint. So we see with SharePoint being the de facto intranet in my eyes, and there being a very lively ecosystem, it's really an excellent opportunity for us. And it's been really easy actually to work with the submissions team, and we feel really supported in trying to get good quality applications on AppSource. And it's almost assuring to know that if we had to go through very stringent submissions processes, I know everyone else on AppSource also had to deliver top-notch quality applications. And I think that's one of the reasons why users are starting to really search through the SharePoint store for things that they want to add to their SharePoint.
Yep, makes perfect sense. And I'll definitely pass in the compliments for the team. I will take some of that credit of that compliment as well, but that's really cool.
It's well deserved.
Thank you, Henry. But I guess that's it for a quick round of kind of a partner showcase on what Adanin is doing. And thank you, Henry, for joining on a discussion. Awesome stuff. Super excited to see a lot of those business integration scenarios getting visible in the Viva Connection as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much for having me, Vesa. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye-bye.